Good morning, Nellie Mezir. Welcome to this interview. I am feeling very privileged that you're here today because Nellie has been doing some amazing work with people in the Ukraine. So she is a level 4 advanced eutaptics FasterEFT practitioner. She's also a master in NLP. She also is certified in guided imagery and Erickson's hypnosis.
That's true.
And she is using all her skills to help people during a time of grief and loss. And Nellie has been doing this on a volunteer basis, and I thought it is such an act of kindness. I'm also an advanced level 4 eutaptics practitioner, and I thought let's get together and find out exactly what Nellie is up to and explain to people, because I get this all the time, Nellie, what exactly is this FasterEFT stuff, this tapping stuff? You're not serious. How does this work? How can this change my life?
And it's hi Doreen, and thank you for having me and doing it, because it's actually good evening here. You have early morning, I have not so late afternoon, but already afternoon, closer to evening. So it's evening here. And yes, so let's talk about it. But before we go, I just want to give a little bit, you gave me so many titles and I'm so privileged to have them. It just shows the years of studying and practicing. But also, let me give you a little bit of my background. So for people, it would be more clear what exactly I'm doing with people from Ukraine, because it's our topic today. We're working on a grief and loss a lot. And it's like Robert Smith is saying, grief and loss we can experience in every area of our life. When the people get divorced, it's grief and loss. When the people lose someone, it's grief and loss. And even when we're changing sometimes houses, it also could be grief and loss, right? So we are moving from one place to the other one. And this subject is very familiar to me because I grew up on the stories of grief and loss from my parents and grandparents who been through a revolution in Soviet Union in 1917, and then been in Second World War. And obviously they had a lot of loss, literally a lot of loss. And they not only were losing the belongings, but they were losing the places to live. In the Second World War, they were losing, like my grandmother, for example, the story was that she came from the family of 7, and during the Second World War, 3 of her brothers got killed in the Second World War. So it's where a lot of stories in my upbringing about loss and how people dealt with it, and not even mention that my descent goes to Ukraine because my parents and grandparents were born in Ukraine, and my husband was born actually in Ukraine. My grandparents never went back to Ukraine, and they ended up in Latvia, where my husband actually was born in Ukraine, and then he moved out of Ukraine. And just to make this easier to understand for the people, the country that I'm talking about was Soviet Union that consisted of 15 republics. And going from the republic to republic, it was easy enough. It was not very, very easy, but it was easy enough just to go from republic to republic, where all republics were together under one umbrella. Like in United States, we have 50 states. And it's very similar, like move from one state here to the other one. So everything was under umbrella of Soviet Union. Till in 1989, my husband and I, we immigrated. It's another loss, right? Because I was actually leaving the family behind. I didn't know if I would be able to meet my parents ever again, or my brother for this matter. So we took our little child and we immigrated, and we ended up to be in the United States that welcomed us with open arms, which I'm so grateful for. And 2 years later, Soviet Union collapsed. And my parents were able to also come to United States, and we united. But when we left in '89, we never knew would we ever be able to meet with them again or not, because it was, like the curtain were closed, and they said it would not be, like possibility. It was very, very dim. So we didn't know would it happen or not. So this is the story of my own journey with all these stories in the family of really loss, not, like I said, not only belongings, but also lives. And our, like when we went through immigration process, and we actually got the status of refugee. We came to United States as a refugee because we literally left everything that we had, and we came to United States. We had $50 for 3 people in our pocket. That's it. We didn't have nothing else. We had $50 in our pocket. I had already at this point decent English because my parents were smart enough, and I've been studying English since I was 5 years old. Where not my husband nor my son knew one word in English. And so our journey as refugees began. And it's another story, but not for our interview today. But the journey of loss, very familiar to me.
Wow, that is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and this why when I decided to help those people in Ukraine, because it's so much loss is going on right now. And it's very similar because men are fighting and women, many of them just flee the country with little children to save their kids, which is very similar to what I went through. And they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to reunite with their parents, because a lot of elderly people, they don't want to leave. They don't know what's going to happen with their husbands or brothers, for this matter, or parents, right? Because if we're talking about little child, we have no clue what's going to happen to a father. So yeah, so the story is very, very familiar to me. And I would say that I pretty much can relate to what those people are going through.
And I read a post that you put out where you said you are tapping on people who are going through these extreme emotions, this grief, this loss. they're losing friends, family, their country, and you tapping on yourself at the same time.
Very often.
So close.
It's true.
Now I understand how close it is to you.
Yeah, but besides it's close to me, like I was writing in one of my posts, I said, I was thinking that I'm very good at grief and loss and in trauma. And it's exactly in the same post. I said, little did I know that I'm probably going to be the greatest at the trauma after all this is going to be over. And the reason is why, because it's actually a huge difference when you are tapping on someone who just fled the country and lost, for example, belongings, or who is still in a country, who is still, for example, in Kiev, or for this reason, Donetsk right now. And then she's saying, oh, you know what? Yesterday, the bomb was just exploded two houses from my house. And this was the explosion, like horrible explosion. And she has a spasm in her throat and the body, and she cannot breathe. And this is where it becomes, like where I go, okay, you know what, let it go, let it go, let it go, whatever it is. But in the same time, I'm letting it go on my own as well, because then she sent me the picture where the entire, this is how she said, this is how my city looks like right now. And the entire of the city is just like nothing. It's just, we have ruins. And this is where I'm getting to the point, okay, I'm letting it really go. Yes. I am. because it's literally, I think it's doesn't matter how good we are, and we are good as level 4s, we are good. It's not I'm giving ourselves, you know, like applause, but we know already so much, and we worked so much on our credentials, and we did so much work already. And in the same time, it's almost like I was saying to someone, you know what, I ended up right now working in a war zone.
Yes.
It's exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
And even so, I went through so much on my own. It's different when you're in a war zone. It's
This
not
is
same
happening.
thing.
This is
Yeah.
happening in real time. It's not
Exactly.
something that happened 10 years ago. So that's
Exactly.
why I find it such amazing and powerful work that you're doing. You are on the scene. So Nellie, how did this come about? What made you decide I'm going to help these people that are going through these tragedies right now? How did you
Yeah,
find them?
thank you for asking. Was the story behind it too. A couple years ago, as I started to assist Robert in many trainings, I really had an urge to bring a FasterEFT eutaptics to Russian-speaking population in the world, not only Ukraine or Russia, because we have a lot. I think in Australia you have big Russian-speaking population as well. So it's all over the world. We have a lot of Russian-speaking people. And my idea was to actually bring eutaptics to Russian speaking. Like I said, not necessarily to Russia itself. Ukraine was very Russian speaking prior this war happened. So like 99% people in Ukraine, they speak Russian. This is what actually makes it possible for me to work with them, because my husband is fluent in Ukraine. I don't know Ukraine. It's very similar languages, but it's not same language. And but 99% of people in Ukraine, they actually speak Russian language, because Russian language, just to explain it a little bit more, Russian language was the language of communication when I grew up in the Soviet Union. In all republics that were under umbrella of Soviet Union, everybody spoke Russian as a language of communication, like exactly us are talking right now English. So we have a lot of Russian speaking people, not necessarily from Russia, because like I said, I never lived in Russia. I was born in Latvia, but I'm speaking Russian because it was a common language of communication. And for other people, they don't understand. They say, oh, if you're speaking Russian, you're Russian. No, it's not. It's Russian language was a language of communication. It still is for many, many people. And this was the idea to bring eutaptics FasterEFT, this amazing job of Robert Smith, to a lot of people in the world. And so we start to make it more and more popular. I even at some point had interview with Robert where I was a translator. So we were translating what he was explaining about eutaptics FasterEFT in Russian, just to make people acquainted and familiar with FasterEFT eutaptics. And while I was doing that, it started about 2 years ago, I started to explore more Russian-speaking world, because before I was working only in English, and I started to explore more Russian-speaking world, and got a lot of acquaintances and friends in Russia itself, in Ukraine, and then around the world among the people who are speaking Russian. And when the war happened, it's actually ended up to be that I already at this point knew a lot of people who were my clients or just were helping me to promote the business back there in different platforms, like we're talking YouTube right now, or we're talking Instagram, or we're talking right now, it's very popular, Telegram, it's another platform that a lot of people use. So they were helping me, and this is how I end up to have so many people who I actually know there.
Incredible.
And
Yes.
many of them who were my clients back there, or who I work with,
Yes.
still are my clients, but I am working on them for free right now. So they year and a half, they paid me. Now I'm just providing a service for them free of charge, knowing that they basically not capable to pay. And I truly believe I cannot leave people alone just because of.
Yes, your heart is in this. You know, you have a sense of what they're going through, you know.
Absolutely.
And so Nellie, you're an absolute angel. And now I'd love you to give people an idea, people who might be watching this who don't know what FasterEFT is. Can you give us a little bit of an understanding of how you are helping them diminish their pain and their grief and loss and fear for what is going on around them? How does this tool work? What are the basics?
The basics is understanding, in my understanding, how the people's mind work, how we acquire trauma, where we're holding it. And FasterEFT eutaptics it's fairly easy to work with when you understand the process of the mind. And sometimes I'm just giving a very quick, like 5 minutes stress release with eutaptics. Sometimes I give the full session of, like hour and a half. I rarely do 2 hours, it's usually hour and a half. And we work in depth. What we're doing, we're assessing literally how we hold trauma, where we hold it, where we hold our fears, how it applies to our body, our gestures, our pains. And usually any kind of emotional pain has tendency to go in a physical approach. And like I told you about this friend of mine who had just bomb exploded 2 houses from her, and she instantly had this reflect, right? Tension in her chest and a tension in the entire of the body because of what happened, the sound, the fear, the uncertainty. And the people often, they think nobody hears them because they want to bring their story out, and they truly believe that nobody hears them. And here, eutaptics, FasterEFT comes amazingly helpful because with certain questions and brilliancy of art of change, and I like the name, but it's exactly the process, art of change, that consists of certain questions. We asking the questions, we're figuring out where and how people hold the issue, the trauma, and then we bring the cherry on the cake, the topping process. Yes. So we're aiming to where we're holding this stuff, how we're holding this stuff, how do we know that we have it, and then my favorite, we bring the cherry on the cake, the topping, and we're using only 4 basic points, which is forehead, side of the head, under the eye, and collarbone. And we are actually with only one phrase, I let it go, I let it all go, and maybe a couple more phrases we can throw in and out as we go along. We are addressing what people are holding inside, releasing the stress, releasing the issue, releasing the fear, trauma, and many other emotions and feelings that they're holding, and ended up with anchoring to the peace, deep breaths in and out, and anchoring to the word peace, which is actually bring the relaxation to the entire of the body. And what I also found brilliant in all this process, not only breaking up the trance of what we're holding on, like again, I'm bringing the example of this woman because it was 2 days ago and it's very recent, that hold on a trauma of a bomb, explosion 2 houses from her. It's the trance of breaking with the happy memory as well, which is another brilliant approach, how we're breaking the trance of what we're holding on into our bodies and in our mind. And this very easy as well. Just remember something very good happened to you in your life in general. It doesn't need to be like from yesterday. It could be like from 5 years ago, or what I'm using a lot with them right now, believe it or not, Doreen, it just, I'm bringing my own. I said, close your eyes and imagine that I'm giving you a hug.
Beautiful.
It's
Who
easier.
wouldn't melt when they can,
Exactly. And exactly with this,
connection.
like Ericksonian tone of voice that we mentioned, Ericksonian hypnosis, right? So I go like, just close your eyes and imagine me or somebody who you love gives you a hug.
And when you imagine that, your brain thinks it's happening now.
Exactly.
And your body responds.
Exactly, because our brain, they cannot distinguish from yesterday till today. It's everything actually in real. And you can't just watch the body, it's just melting. And I go, if you're going to give yourself a hug on the top of it,
like that,
and just feel it. And feel how it feels when you, somebody who you love hugs you.
And isn't that a beautiful tip for anyone watching? You're feeling stressed.
Absolutely.
Something
absolutely
just knocked you off your track. Just give yourself a hug.
Yeah, and
it's
the reason
that
back
to the present, isn't it?
Yeah, coming back to the present, and also the reason that I'm doing hug right now more than happy memory. Just remember something. It's easier for them to access, because many of them, they still have someone who they love in their presence, especially if they're children. Or it could be me, you know, like for this matter, like imagine that I give you a hug. Much easier than for them to remember the day like 2 years ago went somewhere in a beautiful space, for example, and we're traveling. So it's more realistic for them actually to be more tactile, to, you know, like kinesthetic, that you actually can touch, than to just send them somewhere with what they're going through right now to the happy memory. Like we usually use in eutaptics, that what would be your happy memory. But now I'm just like, give them happy memory on their own. So not send them to very long search. I will just imagine I would give you a hug, or somebody who's nearby you, who you love, just would give you a hug. And it's actually break their trance very, very well, because it also gives them opportunity not only break the trance, but also inspire them to look into tomorrow, inspire them to look into future. Because they have those people around them. And it means, you know, like, especially if they're children around them or they're young people, so it inspires them to actually look into the future too.
Well, what incredible work, because I'd imagine if that woman was left without any intervention, she would have that bomb going off in her mind again and again, because the brain is tagging that unsafe event, and it's going to, wherever she goes, and I'm just creating a scenario to explain.
But I can give you a scenario of real life here. And exactly, you know, for years and years, my mother, my own mother, she was afraid of thunderstorms. She was so afraid of thunder, not so much of lightning, but mainly of thunder, that she actually were running to the restroom and were closing the doors and were sitting with and me growing up, I loved thunderstorms. I was coming out and I just absolutely loved it. And I could not understand for years and years and years, till I actually started to study NLP, what actually was going on with her. And only when I started to study NLP, I realized, I remember the story that when she was 12 years old, and they were running from Nazis, and they were on a train, the train was constantly bombarded by Nazis air and by Nazis jets. And they had to run out of the train and hide themselves in a pits, you know, of the bombs while they were bombarded. And it's obviously this exactly, she was 12, and it's exactly was an effect of the war on her, never addressed. And while she was alive, she always was afraid of thunder.
Oh my goodness, that's a perfect example of how the brain will hold on to that and it will replay in your future, any loud noise.
Again and again,
Because the brain's just keeping us safe. And that's why I love FasterEFT eutaptics, because we're going there and we are untagging those things in the brain. We're changing it in the body, what we heard, what we saw, with this amazing tapping tool.
Absolutely. And talking about my mother, I was thinking, you know, when I already start to study eutaptics, and I go, oh my God, if I only knew there, you know, like, so I just would work on her in one session, probably. You know, it probably would be enough, like one session to let the whole story go. But but this is how fast it worked, because brain are so flexible. We have like, this is why Robert likes to bring the word neuroplasticity. You know, he's talking about neuroplasticity, because brain, they're flexible. And the minute that you you know, like do invitation for a brain, okay, let's change it. It starts to change.
And how those memories, how we've learned in science, in all the research, that memories are malleable. So we can go in there, we can open it up, and we can adjust them and make them better. So that amazing, beautiful things are showing up in our present instead of fear and grief and loss. So Nellie, I want to bring this back now. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to bring this back to grief and loss.
Right.
Because this is the theme in my group at the moment. And that's when I thought, I have to interview you. And I wondered if we can just now do a little bit of tapping for anyone who has never tapped before, or people who have, and they would just like to join in and tap along with us on, as you were saying, grief and loss is pervasive. It can show up in so many different ways in our lives.
Absolutely.
These unwanted changes, you know, we can grieve the person that we thought we were going to be and we're not now, or as you say, moving countries, physically losing a loved one. It shows up in so many ways. So I wonder if you can lead us, and I will just join in and throw in a few of my words, and just for 5 minutes, so people can get some benefit as well. They might be watching TV and they're watching the war in Ukraine, and it's really starting to upset them and trigger them. And as we know, it triggers any of our own unresolved traumas. And you wonder why you're feeling so rattled and disturbed. So maybe we can just knock a little bit of that out with a bit of tapping.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so let's start with happy memory. Let's close our eyes, and I have like, let's see, maybe I can do this. No, I can't. It's like my glasses for some reason are very shiny. But anyway, so let's close our eyes, and whoever is listening to us right now, I really want you to imagine yourself somewhere in a place that gives you very good feelings. What we're talking about, it's happy memory. And the happy memory is actually when you feel really good and really calm about something. And it could be anything. It could be like I was talking before about just somebody who loves you or you love, give you a hug, and it could be mutual. It could be your vacation somewhere that you like, walking on the beach, looking at the blue skies, sun is shining. Every single person has their own happy place and happy memory. And so now I'm inviting you actually to close your eyes for a minute, maybe couple minutes, and really get into this happy memory, the feeling of what is good in this happy memory and how it makes you feel. So close your eyes and go there and feel the feelings of feeling good. Invite those feelings. And as you're inviting those feelings, allow those feelings to actually get into your body, get into your mind, and feel it on every single level of your body and in your mind. Then take a deep breath, let it out, hug your wrist, and say the word peace.
Peace.
Very good. And we, Doreen and I, we touched really sad subject for many. It's subject about loss and grief, how we're grieving our loss, because basically in a loss, it's always a grief. And another emotion that often comes with loss, it's actually guilt. This is what I found too, very often. And all of us were grieving differently. And so now, if you're really triggered by watching the news about the war in Ukraine, or you're triggered that something is going on maybe in your own life, or maybe you lost someone, or you moved, or you got divorced for this matter, or just broke with your boyfriend, girlfriend, address those feelings right now. Just allow yourself to feel those feelings. And now, as you're addressing those feelings, wait a second. If I am going to give you the equivalent of helium balloons, and we're going to step out and we're going to let them all go, what's going to happen to the balloons? That's right. They're all going to fly away. That's right. And now with 2 fingers, you start to tap. Everything that bothers me,
Everything that bothers me,
I let it go right now.
I let it go right now.
Everything that scared me,
Everything that scared me,
everything that I watched that scared me,
everything that I would that scared me,
all this uncertainty in my life,
all this uncertainty in my life,
I let it all go right now.
I let it all go right now.
And as I let it go,
And as I let it go,
I allow something better happen to me
I allow something better to happen to me
in this day and time.
in this day and time.
Take a deep breath, hug your wrist, say the word peace,
Peace.
and check where your emotions are. And now, if your emotions were very intense, from 0 to 10, they were 10, notice where they are right now. Are they still 10? Or they are much less than 10? Remember the number.
Can I
And
do a
then-
round now?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll jump in now if you don't mind, Nellie.
Absolutely.
Okay, and notice that number. This is the Nellie and Doreen duo. And I want you to notice how strong it is. Notice what's left there in that number. You got it? Notice how you see it, hear it, feel it, in any sensations in your body. And all that pain.
Let it go.
Let it go. The sadness, I let it go. The ways the war in Ukraine is triggering me. I feel so uncomfortable and I let it go. That feeling of helplessness, that grief, that loss, everything that's connected to in me, I give myself permission to let it go. I'm okay as I let it go. I'd rather be here, present in my life, sharing my gifts. And take a deep breath in, blow it away, and peace.
Peace.
And
Good
over
job.
to you, Nellie.
All right. So, and now, as Doreen said, notice what is left on the number. And before you go to the next round, I actually want to go back to happy memory.
Good idea.
Feel it, notice it, allow yourself to be there for a moment. Take a deep breath. And again, hug your wrist and peace. And now address it again and notice if it's still something there or not. A huge possibility is that your feelings by now are totally changed. And if something's still there, we can do a couple more rounds like this. Just focus on what is still there and allow yourself that still bothers you, actually let it all go. Whatever left.
Whatever's left.
From my discomfort.
From my discomfort.
Whatever left from my fear.
Whatever left of my fear.
Whatever left from uncertainty.
Whatever's left of uncertainty.
Whatever left from my loss.
Whatever's left of my loss.
Whatever left from my sadness.
Whatever's left of my sadness.
Helplessness and hopelessness.
Helplessness and hopelessness.
Fear of no control.
Fear of no control.
I allow myself to let it all go right now.
Allow myself to let it all go right now. To breathe.
And safe to let it go.
To relax. To look after me. I release everything from my body and my mind.
That's right. And I'm safe to do so.
I'm safe to do so.
Great job.
And peace.
And peace.
Oh my goodness, I feel so relaxed.
Yes, yes. And this is how, and the people, they cannot understand, you know, like this is how fast it really works. And it's amazing. And when somebody is asking me, I said, just please stop in a moment. Just literally like stop in a moment, just address. And it's Robert's also like favorite one, put the cook in the kitchen, right? So just do it in the moment. When you felt it, it's like the best way to do it. So you're, instead of storing it inside of you and then maybe address it later, you're actually addressing it right now.
And you know, what you make me think of is that so often we subconsciously would rather hold on to this feeling of discomfort and grief and loss because maybe we feel guilty. These poor people are going through this, so maybe I should go through it with them.
It's true. This is what I was saying. Exactly. It's usually guilt. It's like not always, but many times. It actually comes together with grief and loss protocol, the guilt, because the people go, only if, it's just a question, only if I would do something different, only if I would be there, only if I could say these words, only if I would move, you know, instead of right, I'd move a left turn. And there are no ifs. There are no ifs. Because what people forgot that we always do our best at the moment, according to our beliefs at the moment. And then we do the silliest thing ever, have a tendency to judge ourselves. And you and I were very familiar when we have people who are, you know, in a certain age saying exactly the thing, only if, and I go like, Did you have your education back there? No. Did you have your experience back there? No. So why you're judging yourself, like 20 years prior to that from experience and education that you have now? And people go like, I didn't think about it. I said, yeah, I know.
We can be so hard on ourselves. It's so
We usually are. Yeah.
And
Guilty of the same thing, yeah.
And as Robert says, you have to be kind to yourself before you can be kind to others. That's how it works.
Absolutely.
Well, Nellie, this has been absolutely amazing. I could listen to you forever.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you so much for allowing me to interview you and share
you,
a little
Doreen.
bit of our tapping magic together. I really enjoyed that. And I'd love you to keep in touch and let us know how you're going with all your
Absolutely. I will update you. Also what I want to finish with, that after we calm ourselves down and we let the stuff go, I always encourage people to actually create what they want in the future, in a month, in a year, in 5 years from now. Even so they're in a distress right now, it's actually the future that they're creating, it becomes a reality. And I always advise, okay, I know you're in distress, we top your stress away, we top your loss away, but please create something better for you. And what would it be? And I actually make them to create, what would it be? How you want to see your future? And I think maybe it looks like absolutely unrealistic right now. And in the same time, just send your mind on a search.
I love that.
Yeah,
send
it's
your mind
phenomenal.
on a search.
Yeah. It's phenomenally focusing, because you, again, like a happy memory, you refocus them from the trance of the loss to something what they would like to have. Because in our society, we're so programmed to focus on what we don't want. Very often we're focusing on what we want. And this is why Robert is so firm on a happy journal.
Yes, yeah.
Because of it as well.
Yeah,
so it's another
we
tool.
talk about that neuroplasticity. It's rewiring the brain.
Rewiring the brain.
We can have what we want and we're focusing on it. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for finishing off on that powerful piece, because that really is it is key in this healing journey.
The healing journey.
Nellie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you.
It's been a privilege.
And for me as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye.